Today, I'm going to share with you exactly how I raise my prices without losing out on sales. And there's one psychological trick that you need to know, especially if you're just starting out. When you finally get a few clients, you get some confidence, but then there's a little voice that whispers, you're charging too little. But then the second you even think about increasing your rates, there's another voice that pops up and says, well, what if no one books me again? What if that's too expensive? How do I know it's the right price? Here's the trick. It's not about price, it's about perceived value. When a client says it's too expensive, they're rarely comparing you to a cheaper competitor. They're just comparing the price to the story that they've been told. If your offer feels premium, if it sounds and looks and feels like it solves their exact pain, people will pay you almost anything that feels fair for that result. Raising your price is really about raising your perceived value. So here is me breaking down this trick. Before I ever change the number on my proposal, I first change the framing. So instead of saying my branding package is, say, $3,000, I say we'll design a brand that positions you as the premium choice in your space so that your next client will pay you more than the amount that you are paying for this engagement. Same price, different framing, and the key is simple but powerful. People don't buy design, coaching, or strategy. They buy transformation. And when your words anchor the result, the price becomes a logical next step and not a hurdle if it can get them closer to their dream result. So how do you do it step by step? Number one, shift from price giver to a value narrator. Now, follow me here. Don't drop a number cold, tell a story. Show the before and after of what your client's life could look like. So for example, you'll never have to manually chase invoices again. You'll have a brand that makes clients trust you instantly. You'll finally be able to take weekends off because your systems just work. All of these are examples of you explaining the value, and that is transformation. Number two is to use anchoring, subtly though. Anchoring is a cognitive bias where people rely heavily on the first piece of information that they see. So when you present your price after showing context like testimonials, return on investment, or the scope, it feels much smaller in comparison. So for example, you can share with them some stats, like maybe our last client saw a 40% increase in leads after their rebrand, and that is a different experience than just saying that it costs $6,000. What I also do is I break down exactly what line items is in that project, and usually there's a lot more that goes into it than the client would previously have imagined. So then if you say, well, if there's like 12 line items and it's $6,000, then how much are you paying for each line item? It's actually not that much. And there's another anchoring technique you can do is you can present them multiple different packages. So I have 3 core packages, different tiers that has different level of comprehensiveness. And I would usually pick 2 that suits them the best because one is usually just not the right fit. And then say, these are the 2 options that I think would work really well. This is the super comprehensive one, and I anchor them with a more expensive option. So that is their baseline. And so for example, our mid-tier price is $10K for a rebrand, and say this is exactly what you're gonna get. Or if that feels like a little bit of a stretch, you want to just have the essentials to get you off the ground, then it's $6K. And it still includes all of this. You probably don't need the social media templates right now. So let's get started with the essentials if you're more comfortable. They already know what's the better option. So people usually gravitate towards like the idea of FOMO, like, oh no, but I kind of want the social media templates too. But you can always reassure them you can add it in later on. So now the 6K feels a lot more affordable than the 10K option. Okay, number 3 is add confidence markers. People don't just buy your work, they buy your certainty. If you present your price timidly, clients, they sense the hesitation and they start doubting your capability and your value. So try saying the investment for the project is $6,000 and that includes everything we discussed, brand strategy, visuals, the rollout, delivery, and brand guidelines. And once we begin, the timeline is around 4 to 6 weeks. Calm, clear, confident, and you're already talking in terms of this is what's going to happen when you work together, so they can visualize beyond the payment, the results, and the timeline. You're not asking for money, you are offering them clarity. Okay, number 4, always pair a price increase with a value upgrade. When I raise my prices, I also raise and elevate the experience. Adding maybe an onboarding guide, improving the presentation of your proposal, refining your process visuals, giving your deliverables names, for example, like a brand transformation system. It sounds more premium than just logos. This way you don't feel like you're just charging more just because but you are evolving your offer and you're increasing it because you're delivering an even better experience to the client. Number 5 is to normalize it internally. Here's a mindset trick that saved me very early on. Before I quote a higher price publicly, I say it out loud a few times privately to myself in the mirror, or even to your dog if you have to. I practice saying it until it stops feeling scary, because when you're on that call, when they ask how much is it, you don't want to stutter, because I have done so before and my face goes red and the world starts spiraling, and you don't want that, because if you don't believe it yet, your client, they won't either. The key takeaway out of all of this is that a reframe changes everything. Most people tend to think if I raise my prices, I'll lose clients. But the real shift is when I raise my prices, I attract clients who are serious. Your higher price, it acts like a filter. The people who aren't ready, they will drop off, and that is okay. But the ones who stay, they'll value your work even more. And this is proven in my experience. My best clients are the ones that pay me the most. They bother me the least, they trust me more, and they say, Annie, do your thing, I trust you. And they pay on time. And that is not a miracle, that is really just the way it goes when you work with high value clients. And if you want a proven script, if you want a play-by-play sales deck to convert your leads into clients, the one that I literally use for all my projects that range from 6K all the way to 15K, you can grab it by signing up to my free upcoming 10K month masterclass by scanning this QR code on the left, where I break down exactly how I went from an unfulfilled designer to self-employed to making steady 10K months. And it's really, really quite straightforward. No feast and famine cycle anymore, no super scary cold outreach, just a proven roadmap that actually works. When you sign up to the masterclass, you're going to grab my sales deck. It is literally the one I use to actually convert my leads into clients. So I really want you to grab that. If you're ready to build a career doing what you love, scan the QR code and I'll see you there. The final thing I really want you to take away is raising your prices. It's not just a financial move, it's a confidence move. And the secret isn't to justify your rate with more deliverables or endless revisions. It's to anchor your offer around outcomes, certainty, and trust. Because at the end of the day, people don't buy the cheapest option. They buy the one that feels like it'll get them to where they want to go. And when you show them that, raising your prices will not lose you on sales. It earns you better ones. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, I know you also love this one on the left right here. If you prefer listening on the go, we also have a podcast version called the Brand Creator Podcast. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.